Alright, detecting talk of the day. Friday, April the 7th, 2023. Got the old DS2 made by XP out here. Now there's people that's buying these machines. Gravedigger Max, he's got him one, I guess, here just as of late. You know, this machine here has a lot of single frequencies, you know, you can run on it in the old mono program. You see that in that camera there? Now, some people may get these machines, you know, and they may be looking at this mono program, and they may be looking at the multi-frequency program. They've got a nickel there, okay? I'm in the mono program. We've got the machine dialed to speed 1, 13 kilohertz. Alright? You may test this machine in mono program air testing, you know, and you could be falsely led into what this machine is going to do in the wild, okay? Mono program is not going to behave ID-wise like multi-frequency. Now, disclaimer here, deep high conductor probably won't ID a nickel as accurately as deep as, say, maybe the general program because of the frequency used, okay? So there may be some differences even with, say, a nickel, and even on higher conductors. Some programs, multi-frequency programs on this machine may do a better job depending. But mono program, even in mild ground, it's going to have a disadvantage, okay? So when you use the mono program on this detector, now I've got the 9-inch coil on this detector. Okay, solo setting targets, the 11-inch coil will probably yield, using mono program, a better, more accurate ID deeper, okay, versus the 9-inch coil. But the 11-inch coil is still not going to give you what multi-frequency can give you on deeper targets for ID. Okay, so again, you can sweep the 11-inch coil over that nickel right there, and you might say, well, I'm air testing the nickel and getting good ID. Well, if you bury that nickel, you may see something totally different. Now, anybody with DS1 experience will understand more what I'm talking about in this video. This machine has a tendency to run to the high side, ID-wise. Now, there can be instances where this machine will give higher ID than what the actual counter relic reads. It can be caught in the middle, so to speak. Generally, what you'll see a lot of times, though, this machine will go into the 90s range, or even no ID at all, yet give a tone, okay? So if you try to run notch using mono program, but let's say, for example, let's say you've notched out everything except for the number 85 and higher, running mono program on this machine. You could literally get over, using the 11-inch coil, I'll use it as the example, you could get over a 10-inch deep nickel. Now a nickel air test reads about 64. Yet with the mono program, with everything 0 to 85 knots, you will hear it on the detector. Because it's going to the high side. It's a reading in the 90s, or it's giving no ID at all. And it will give a high tone. So your notch is not going to allow you to ID higher conductors only per se, or locate higher conductors only. But what that can do for you is, if you run a notch that high on this machine, the shallower stuff, even a shallow nickel, see, you wouldn't hear. So the deeper stuff would probably come in, but there's one little problem with that. Sometimes the smaller stuff at mid depths, and sometimes even shallower, it can run to the high side. So it's not a guarantee. Unlike multi-frequency, all targets, you know, in general will read a more accurate ID. So they will be more reflective based on how you have your notch set up. See, if you tried to run just a nickel window only using mono program on this machine, the shallower nickels, sure, you could actually spot them. But as they get deeper, they will start reading higher. And eventually they'll read all the way into the 90s. This would go even for other deep stuff, even deep silver. You could have a deep zinc that will air test about 85 or 6, yet when it gets deeper in mono program, it may show up on this machine in the 90s. So people new to the DS2, that's how the DS1 works, okay? In mono program, you know, this is basically a DS2 and a DS1 for all practical purposes, okay? The way it works, as long as you use the mono program, you know, that's the DS1 component of this machine. Some people could get confused, and you can use mono program on this machine and locate targets. In in areas with a lot of aluminum trash, you can run lower single frequency and do well. In areas with heavier iron, you can run higher single frequency and make some finds. But generally, what's going to happen with mono program use on this machine, the mid-range use of mono program on this machine, multi-frequency for all practical applications will generally, the multi-frequency will outperform, okay? So when you get at the actual extremes, the low and the high, you could see some benefit in the wild using mono program, okay? Now remember, I wouldn't go into a site using mono program and deem it necessarily hunted out, okay? And I could even reverse that and say I wouldn't necessarily go into a certain site and run multi-frequency and say it's hunted out. But I have a lot more confidence with this machine with the old fast multi-frequency, okay? So that's the detecting talk of the day. I hope everybody has a good day.